All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pink Pixels, where we power up visibility for women in the gaming industry. I'm Rebecca Dixon from the Gamehers. I'm so excited to be here tonight. We are a community platform for women in gaming. You can join us at tgh.app. And this is season 3 of Pink Pixels. We are using Pink Pixels season 3 as an opportunity to honor and showcase the winners of the 2025 gamehers Awards. So the past 2 weeks of Pink Pixels has been hosted by gamehers CRO Allie Young. And Allie spoke with advocates for representation 1 week, and she spoke with trailblazers in gaming. So tonight, I am so excited to be here speaking with content creator winners. So we have a lot of excitement, a lot of really sort of fun topics. I was telling some of these guests that I had a really fun time preparing for this show. And I can't wait for all of you to hear more. So joining me today is Artemis Frost, Billy Goat, and Ty Rex. Great to see all of you. Thanks for coming. I think we'll start out by doing what we like to do at the Gamehers. The Gamehers is a place where you can meet people, you can connect, win prizes, learn, have mentors, find mentees, educate, lots of different things. But the awards specifically are our moment where we like to turn it over to the community. The awards are community nominated and community voted. So everybody here was honored through that format. And it's just it's exciting for us because it's a place for us to be able to really live out our mission. So what I want to do is give each of the three of you an opportunity to share about what you have kind of going on. So Artemis, I'd love to start with you. First of all, congratulations on your Gamers Award. You so deserve it. Also, you were one of the hosts, and I had the absolute pleasure of being there live with you. And it was such a exciting and and the energy in that studio was just really, really wonderful. You shared a story that evening. I can't remember actually if it was live on the awards or if it was after or if it was in the chat after, but about sort of your journey from 1 year before at the awards 2024 to the awards in 2025 when you were hosting and winning. I
Yeah.
would going to ask if you'd be open to sharing that again, and then you can take it from there, like what your path kind of looks like, because it was a really neat example of just sort of taking your own career and making it happen.
Yeah, so I had a lot of snowball effects leading up to the awards show. So back in 2024, I got invited because I applied for an ambassador thing for the Game Hers, but I wasn't fully accepted yet. But, the Game Hers invited me out and, they're like, you should come. We have an event happening the night before. And this is actually where I introduced myself to Rebecca. And then I got introduced to the CEO of Ghost Gaming, which I'm in now. So that's like one snowball that I had. But also the next day, the entire award show, I got invited, but since I wasn't an official nominee in 2024, I was wearing 6-inch heels and I was standing in the back of the award show watching the entire time and supporting all my friends and the winners and stuff. But I just thought it was funny that I went from standing at the back of the award show to hosting it within like a year, which I think is pretty crazy. You want me to introduce myself now
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
okay.
Like it's a great story to, I think, introduce yourself to show what
Yeah.
you're doing. But yeah, take us through who you are, what you're doing, and what you're sort of all about.
Yeah, so I started as purely just a Twitch streamer. I like to kind of hyper focus on like one thing at a time. So I got Twitch partner in 6 months, and then after I got Twitch partner, I decided, you know what, I want to start doing, like creator advice. So if you guys have seen my tweets, it's pretty much just all streaming content creator advice. I host networking events and stuff. And then after I hosted the Game Her Awards, I was like, I feel fulfilled as a streamer, but I've always wanted to do more. And I've always wanted to do YouTube, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So about like April-ish, I decided to start a YouTube channel on Roblox, which I actually went from 0 to 100,000 subscribers. I hit that yesterday. So I think that's pretty
Wow,
cool that I hit it right before
congratulations.
this. Thank you.
Amazing.
Um, So yeah, I've been posting pretty much like every day, long form content. I've been posting short form content on top of that. So that's been really fun because I've never actually explored YouTube, and I just like, I don't know, I just like learning new things. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm also a crowd control ambassador. I'm a Jackbox ambassador. So I'm still streaming full time, but I'm also doing YouTube. Just kind of like on the side for funsies. And yeah, that's
I
me.
don't know. Do you consider 100,000 followers on the side? I feel that's
Well,
a pretty
I mean, it's
meaningful.
not like my main thing that I do. I don't want to. I guess on the side isn't the right wording for it, but it's more like I'm still prioritizing streaming, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'm actually having a lot of fun with doing YouTube. It's something new and it's kind of refreshing for me, I guess, especially as an introvert. Like as much as I do like streaming, I kind of wanted an outlet where I could make content that wasn't as draining, I guess. So it's kind of like rejuvenating being able to do content and then also doing streaming because I now get to do both, but I'm not as burnt out as I like used to be.
I love that. I mean, I think that what your path really, what speaks to me about your path is that you're always layering in new things and always also educating yourself. I think anybody who who's continuing to learn, you're going to stay more current with what's going on.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that also then translates to, and the energy that your community feels. And what a great message and an example for all of us, I think, to continue to learn. So thank you so much for that. Okay, Billy Goat. So you had a post that I absolutely loved, and it was about when you were announcing your working with Luminosity, and you said you used the words manifestation becomes reality. I love that. First of all, I'm very much into sort of spiritual meditating manifestation in my personal life. So that spoke to me. But I think that manifesting is a word that's kind of funny these days. It's overused in some circles and misunderstood in others. But it's really, to me, what it is about is figuring out what you want, and then you're not just necessarily saying it out in the world alone, you're behind the scenes doing things to make it happen. But I absolutely love that post. It immediately jumped out at me. And so with that as a start, I'd love to hear, like, what was your path to that manifestation happening and what's happened since?
I will. It's a weird. Also, hi, I'm Billy Goat. I'm really awkward. So like, if you see me like move my hands a lot, it's like, it's just like what you do. So when it comes to like just bouncing off of that, every single thing I've ever done, ever since I was a little girl, was my Nona always told me, if I want something, I can't just want it. I have to imagine myself in myself that has what I want and act like that girl. Like even when I was in gymnastics, I want to hit level 10. All right, well, I'm only level 5 right now. I don't have the skill set. I don't even know how to get there. Who would I be if I were in that position today? And how would she wake up every single day? And who would she be? What would she live? What would she breathe? And I've applied that ever since. So whenever it comes to how I got into content creation, I did that in my previous career. I had never worked in like a salesy environment, and I somehow manifested that if I were to work in a sales environment, what would I want? I would want to work for this luxury brand. Okay, how do I get there? How does luxury brand me wake up every single day? What does she drive? Where does she live? How does she talk? How does she present herself? Moved up really quickly. Some health stuff happened, and sometimes you got to take away and you have to make the decision. Okay, the person I manifested in my old career, she rocked it, she killed it, she moved up the ladder quickly. But whenever there was something that got in the line of, without jumping around the bush, basically told me, okay, you've gotten this far so quickly. Okay, we can't have a family. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what I envisioned for myself. That's not the life I want to live. And so again, I went back to the drawing board, talked to my husband, being like, okay, with the life that we want to live, with the family we'd like to have, who is that? What do I love to do? What's a passion of mine that I can turn into my new reality? And I remember it was like my birthday in 2023, and I'd kind of streamed on and off, like not really. I still worked in sales and did a lot of stuff, but like it was just like a fun little hobby. And remember, he sat me down and was like, write down what you want. So I had like literally a broken piece of like cardboard from like whenever we moved into our new house, ripped it, wrote all my goals down, every single goal that I would want in the next year. And I remember that next month in June of 2023, all of them were hit, every single one. And ever since that day, it's like, what do I want next? What's the next thing I want to achieve? And again, like I kept like thinking, okay, how would that girl wake up? What would she do that day? How would she talk? How would she breathe? With still being, of course, like myself and like authentically me. But ever since that, it kept being, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Same thing with like joining Luminosity. It was, made a vision board for my year, literally put joining a gaming organization, not as like a joke, but it was like, I'm not the best at gaming, but I know how to talk. I know how to yap. I know what that I could fit into one and bring the aspect of myself into one as a creator. And then literally a few months later, here we are. And I keep taking that to like every single aspect of what I do. Like I now play the games that I would always want to play, but I thought no one would watch me play those games. And I just kept thinking, okay, what can I do next? How can I incorporate myself more and more? And in all honesty, I kind of lost myself in it because I moved away from the point of, okay, I want to do this one day and this is what I want my content to be about. This is what makes me happy. And started doing things that everyone else was telling me to do. That doesn't work for me. Like, I'm not good. If someone tells me I need to do this to get these numbers to do this, and then it'll be successful, and then that's how you do it. I don't know. It's like something internally is like, that doesn't feel authentic. That doesn't feel like me. And it's like, I just butt heads with it nonstop. So I finally, like recently, for example, I'm literally taking a month off right now to separate from all the loud noises that you hear as a creator. There's so many from, it's like you could literally shut your eyes as a content creator sometimes, and all you hear is what everyone else is telling you to do and everyone else is wanting you to do. And that's not me. And so I'm taking this month off to be like, okay, I need quiet. Like I'm a loud girl, but like to focus and feel myself, I need silence. I need quiet. I need to figure out, okay, what's next? Everyone else is telling me what's next. Okay, but what truly in my heart do I believe that I want to be in this next chapter and figure it out so I can go back to the drawing board and be like, all right, cool. Manifest it, write it down, everything I truly want for this next year so I can accomplish it without hearing all these loud noises around me. And already in the first week, I feel like my under eye bags are gone. Like I feel amazing. I have all these ideas for YouTube that I've been wanting to pursue. They're just there when before I was like, well, maybe people won't like this. Maybe only 10% of people like this. But it's like, no, like who cares? Like who truly cares? I just want to be happy, make what I want, and that's all I want continuing on. Will I be a massive creator one day? I don't really care, but like I'm doing it me and in my own way and what makes me happy. And already just returning to that old version, like my spark of truly not caring, just doing what I love. I think that's what more people I wish they would do. I wish they would stop listening to the noise because I did it and it broke me. I was not okay. Like my close friends know. Like if they saw me live, it's like the light was out of my eyes. So I was trying to do things other people wanted me to do, especially with joining an org. You want to impress them. You want to be your best. And I just had to stop. Had to just like put the brakes on, not even put the brakes, like literally like parking brake it, skirt to the edge, like before I hit a curb. Because it just got really bad. But for the future, like all I want to do is want to go back to making content that I love, and I just want to inspire other people to stop caring about what other people think and just do what you love and keep going. Because I've gotten this far, just kind of skirting around, but like eventually he's got a full power, hit the gas, and just hope everyone else enjoys the journey with you. And it's worked so far, and I'm excited. I don't know, I'm excited for the future. It's gonna be really good.
I love that you're taking a month off, and I have
Mhm.
based on what both of you just said, I think we can have some really great follow-up questions on, layering in new things, reinventing yourself in certain ways, and also avoiding burnout, because that's something that happens to all of us. So thank you for that. Okay. So Tyrex, I love your, first of all, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much. I can't wait for you to introduce yourself a little bit. And I'll say what I loved about, as I was kind of getting to know you and looking at all of your content, physician to Twitch partner and content creator for Ghost Gaming, like that's so unique. And I think that it spoke to me as also in my personal life. So I went to many years ago when I was in college, I had a double major in math because I'm a math nerd, and vocal performance because I'm a singer. So they don't have anything to do with each other. But I also didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at all. But I just I'm always really intrigued when people have whether it's different skill sets or different interests or unique career paths. And I think a lot of paths to being creators, which I'm not, but are, of course, the three of you are, and being creators, a lot of those paths are unique. And so I can't wait to hear about yours. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah. Sorry if you see my arm off to the side, my dog is like, she'll push me around in the circle. So that might be something that happens. But yeah, so I have a very unconventional creator path, that's for sure. Just starting kind of from the beginning. In 2022, we were kind of, at the peak of COVID, and things were a little bit sketchy in the hospital, to say the least. There was a lot of things happening, a lot of burnout. We just saw a lot of really awful things. I had matched earlier into a general surgery residency, and so they're kind of the jack of all trades surgeons, and I fully planned on completing residency, becoming an attending. Like that was the entire life that I had wanted and experienced. And through COVID and through this really severe bout of burnout, I mean, speaking of burnout, that I got to, general surgery is known for its kind of toxic work environment. So I had gotten to a stretch where I was working 18 days straight, alternating days and nights. And that combination of already being burned out, seeing really awful stuff in the hospital, in addition to sleep deprivation and all of the things that came with that, I got to the end of the 18 days and I kind of broke my body, my mind. We were done. We needed time off, kind of thing. And I went through a really severe mental health crisis. And at the end of that, it was almost like it was a hard reset. And I looked at my life and I looked at what I was doing and I looked at my experiences and thought, this isn't what I want anymore. I was projecting forward, seeing, who is, like Billy said, who is Ty down the road as an attending physician? Is she happy? What does her life look like? Can she start a family? Can she even spend time with her husband? And I started to project forward and look at all of my attendings' lives, and it just wasn't what I wanted anymore. And so I had this big crisis of self, and my entire personality, my entire identity was caught up in Ty the physician, Ty the surgeon. And I had no idea who I was anymore. Like I had lost every piece of me that made me me. And so for 6 weeks, I went on leave and decided, do I want to go back? Do I want to pursue something like anesthesiology or radiology or something along those lines? And ultimately decided that I didn't want to do this at all anymore. And my husband suggested that I stream because I was playing a ton of Horizon Forbidden West at the time. And he was like, hey, you have really funny commentary. Why don't you just stream? I did a lot of mental health advocacy actually while I was in medical school. I actually taught anatomy to first and second year medical students, did a bunch of dissection and lectures and whatnot with them. And so I had kind of like this like leadership position, so to speak, and was very, very comfortable with, was very comfortable with, Coney, you can ask your dad for dinner. Very, very comfortable with advocating in this leadership position for things to be better. I held a position in the Association of Women Surgeons as well, because just like gaming and streaming, you'd think that, being a physician, being a surgeon has nothing to do with gaming and streaming. Fun fact though, physicians who do minimally invasive surgery, so laparoscopic surgery where they put the camera in the belly and whatnot, they did a study and found that physicians who were gamers actually were more successful and better at laparoscopic surgeries and had better outcomes when it came to laparoscopic surgery. So that's neither here nor there. But it's also it's a heavily male dominated field, especially surgery. it's somewhere like only 30% of general surgeons are women. And, that goes down a ton when you look at more competitive specialties like neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, and the like. And so advocating for women in these male dominated spaces is something that I'm very familiar with and something I really love. And one of the reasons I'm very much drawn to gamehers, and showing women, hey, I can do this. I can do this. You can do it too. And serving as an example. And so, yeah, very unconventional career path. My husband, pushed me to start streaming. I advocate a lot for mental health. I actually, over the last month or so, have started doing these little segments called Medical Mondays. And we've talked about both women and males' hormone cycles, even though males are very, very, very simple compared to we women. We've done an immunology talk. I plan on talking about cancer and kind of the pathophysiology of that. And I break it down into kind of a gamified version where, you don't have to be a physician or a nurse or any kind of healthcare provider in order to understand the information that I'm presenting. I want it to make it more accessible, because I feel like one of the problems that physicians and just, scientists, healthcare providers in general have is communicating really informationally dense topics to the general public. I feel like we're really, really bad at that. And especially in just like a physician patient, direct patient care environment, a lot of the times, and I saw it with my family members, this is why I care about it so much, but a lot of the time you can see a patient's eyes just glass over and they have no idea what you're saying. And physicians are so particular and obsessed with getting things correct and speaking like, okay, I'm going to give you all the details, without taking into account the patient or the individual's medical literacy. And so I'm doing this in an effort to kind of break things down and let people know about their own bodies and feel empowered to ask questions and advocate for themselves in spaces where maybe they didn't have the information before. So that's kind of something new that I've been trying out.
I love that. It's so interesting how gaming is connected to everything, right? Or it's at least relevant to so many things. And one thing that you just talked about that I found really fascinating is around some of the similarities between the medical industry, surgeons, and the gaming industry. I am older, I believe, than all of you. And so I have, from a personal health perspective, been doing some research on perimenopause, which I've now found out I've been in for a while, but had no idea because it's something that hasn't been talked about a lot. And one thing that's really, it's being certainly talked about a lot more these days, but one thing that's really interesting about it is I heard a statistic, and I think it was like over 50%, but I don't know the exact number of women, and because you can start perimenopause really much younger than we all think, which of course, from a medical perspective, but just as someone who's learning about it, I think it's like, it starts for many people like age 35. Yep. And then it's like, actual menopause comes maybe 10 to 15 years later, all the different things. I mean, I'm no expert, I'm just learning about it. But over 50% of women have felt, what was the word they used? Like basically they said, I have this symptom and this symptom. It feels like it might be hormonal. And the response they got from their doctors made them feel like shameful. Yep. And that made me so sad. Maybe a little mad too.
Yeah, you should, honestly, we should all be a little angry about this. Yeah. There are some wild statistics out there. There was a study done in emergency medicine, not to just like rattle off, a bunch of studies, but this is the way my brain works. But they found that men who went to the ER with chest pain and symptoms of a heart attack were treated with opioid painkillers like morphine way more frequently than women were. And women were much more likely to be dismissed because our symptomatology is different. We often present with different symptoms than men do when it comes to having a heart attack or heart disease. But women were less likely to be treated with things like morphine and more likely to be discharged. And then, from a women's health perspective, like there are so many times where women go to the hospital for something that is serious and they are told they have anxiety, or they're hysterical or something like that. And I cannot, it makes me unbelievably angry.
No, I've been going down all these rabbit holes recently. Autoimmune, this and that. And now I found out that like there are 100 possible symptoms of perimenopause. Like talking about something that could be gamified. Is this a symptom of perimenopause? Yes. Is this? Yes. So anyway, it's fascinating. And I think that why it's such an interesting and relevant topic for this episode of Pink Pixels, is because it just shows how, relating very much to what Billy, you were saying, and Artemis, you kicked us off with, like, being true to yourself and figuring out how you're going to show up to your community and to the world and as a creator, is something that all three of you, I think, are very, very good at and have continued to identify new ways to do it. And so what I'd love to do is dig into some of this a little deeper. So one of the questions that I had sort of teed up is like a possible question if we needed extra questions, but I think that it's just what we're talking about anyway. And it's, how do you lift others up? Excuse me, because you all have communities. One of the points of, I believe we have a community at the Gamers. One of the points of having a community is to lift up that community, provide support. How do you do that and focus on building and nurturing your community while not burning yourself out? And I know that we've all three of you talked about, wanting to reinvent, maybe not reinvent, but layer in new things, reinvent, make sure you're staying true to yourself. But going a little deeper, like, how do you actually do that? Is it leaving your profession? Is it taking a month off? Is it learning, YouTube? Those are some examples that you gave to kind of do it in the moment. But are there any sort of broader, or on the other end of the spectrum, more specifics that you could maybe suggest or share? And any of you can take that one.
Yeah, I'd say my first line of defense, and I am so lucky, I have such a solid moderation team. They are kind of like my first line of defense when it comes to acknowledging if something maybe doesn't feel congruent, like with my message. I think that we're all very aligned on like who I am as a person and who I want to be in the future. Like Billy was talking about, I have this like idealized Ty that like I want to act like and I want to be like. And, one of my moderators is my husband, and he keeps me very grounded. I think that having people both inside the creator space and outside the creator space is so, so, so important. Number one, being inside the creator space. I mean, Billy and I are really good friends. I have several other friends that won awards through the gamehers as well. And just being able to, like, I reached out to a friend and I was like, hi, how do you deal with like a bunch of hate on this platform? How do you cope with it? And she had a lot of really, really awesome advice for me. And that's advice that I wouldn't necessarily be able to get from my IRL support group, because they don't know how it feels to face a bunch of hate and misogyny and things like that. I was dealing with my TikTok live audience, which is just something in and of itself. And having that support group in the online space, so important. But then also having people in your IRL life who are able to keep you grounded and kind of like check your mind in knowing that the online space isn't everything. I think that a lot of us creators are chronically online because we have to be, whether or not it's for work or leisure or anything in between. And just taking a step back from the screen and acknowledging like, it's not that serious. Like it feels like it's real and it's right in front of you. But being able to take a step back and be like, these people don't know me. These people aren't defining who I am or my content. And I know who I am. And that's the most important thing, I think.
I love that advice, and I think it's really good thinking about in real life. I mean, I've had experiences, and I'm obviously not a creator specifically, but as the founder and CEO of the gamehers, sometimes there's some sort of hate directed my way if people aren't necessarily thinking that like we're trying to do things to be completely inclusive, and it's not always received exactly that way by every single person in the entire universe. And, it's, as you all, I'm sure, have had your own experiences, sometimes the specifics of one given message. I mean, I remember something really hurtful that was written about like what should happen to me because of, something that I don't even remember what the thing they were upset about was. And I was like sitting, I'm not sure why I was looking at our Twitter during this moment, but I was sitting at my son's kindergarten, like welcome night. And I was just sort of like, why? It made me so sad. But then I sort of looked up and looked around and grounded myself. So thank you for reminding me about that piece of advice. I think it's a great one. And Billy and Artemis, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think for me, the best lesson I ever learned, I'm pretty sure was Ty who like told me this. I was like a baby streamer, and I was lucky enough to when I started streams, like a game called Only Up came out, and it was like blowing up. And like I went from averaging like 10 viewers when I kind of streamed to like some days there were 100, then there were like 70, and it was a lot. And a lot of things came out of the woodworks. And what I always do whenever I start feeling a certain way that I think a lot of us streamers, we're just overwhelmed, or like there's a lot of people coming left and right, and I keep my circle very small. And sometimes I have to look at the drawing board and be like, why are certain people making me feel a certain way? Is it me? Or is it projection? Or like what is it? And then I literally go to my close friends. But like I've like this close, it's very small, but it's like this group of women that I've surrounded myself with. And Ty is one of them, Yikes is another, like Winnie, like a lot of people who won the awards. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, am I crazy? Is this okay? Like, did I say something wrong? Let me know. Because sometimes I miss empathy signs. I'm really bad at seeing certain signs. And I'm like, put me in my place. If I'm wrong, tell me. Don't beat around the bush. Like, if I'm wrong and I was being not okay, tell me. And I surround myself with people that aren't afraid to be like, yo, you messed up. Like, that's not okay. Or look at it from a completely unbiased perspective and be like, well, you should have done it this way if you sitting back now. And they'll like ask me questions that challenge myself and make me better every single day and like truly challenge myself as a person. And I think surrounding myself with this group of women that I've surrounded myself with, they truly keep me centered. They keep me focused. And I think it's so important to, as a creator, surround yourself with like certain people that you know you can turn to, that you look up to, and that you like not idolize, but it's like the way they like carry certain things. Okay, I know I messed this up. They're great at this. How would they do this? And just really keep myself glued together, essentially. And I think that's so important as a creator. And of course, my husband loves to humble me every day. And like the kindest way, like as spouses do, like they will keep you grounded. Anyone like this, like has a spouse or a partner, like they're the first to be like, yo, simmer down, big ego. Like it's like they'll do it so quick. And like, but it's like they do it in the kindest and funny ways. But like surrounding myself with a group of women, having my partner with me. But I think it's just so important. I really wish more people would truly identify the people around them that make them want to be better rather than the people that maybe all they want to do is talk about streaming. And because you can have like your IRL friends, but, like they don't understand fully what you're going through, but your other creator friends do. So they always seem to just make me feel better and more calm, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me about some advice that I got many, many years ago when I was very young and trying to think about, it was a couple of years out of school and thinking about what I wanted to do next and didn't love my job. And anyway, the advice was surround yourself with what you might call like your own personal, and this is like a formal way of saying it, but board of directors. Like, who do you go to when you need to be, to take an issue to in life? And I get asked the question a lot if I'm interacting with students or young professionals, mentors, and like, how do you find mentors? And I think, and mentors are great. And there are a lot of really curated mentorship programs, and that those are great. But I think also sometimes, and you sort of referred to the fact, Billy, that you do writing when you're manifesting. Sometimes if you just put pen to paper, like, who are 5 people who I could call who could help me solve this problem, or who could check me on this? Like, did I say something wrong on stream, or did I, and I love, so sometimes I have a list that I keep of people I can call for advice. And then, certain people will be more relevant for various issues, and hopefully I'm giving some advice back in the broader, karmic circle of life. But that reminded me of that advice I got. And I think it's something great to sort of also check yourself on and make sure that we are reaching out to people if we have them. So again, yeah, thanks for reminding me about that. And Artemis, what about you?
Yeah, so when I started streaming, this sounds weird, but I was actually like jokingly bullied into it. It was when Among Us was like kind of dying off. It was the summer of 2021. So, I got into Among Us and I didn't know anybody on Twitch. It was my first time using Twitch. So I'm like completely new kid on the block. I don't know anyone. And hitting, partner in 6 months was kind of a lot. I have really bad anxiety. So the fact that I was like on camera and I was just yapping for so long, for 6 months straight, almost like every day. It was kind of a lot. And I was the kind of person where like I was friends with anyone who wanted to be friends with me, which I realized that was a really bad mistake. Because I was like super nice and I would try and like help all of my friends because I actually did care about them. But then you learn that once you are accepting to being friends with everybody, especially those who might not be great for you, sometimes they'll burn you. Sometimes they get used to you giving them things, and when you run out of giving things, it can just turn into a really like nasty situation. So exactly what Billy says, like I love telling people to surround yourself with people who are going to build you up, surround yourself with people who are good for you. And as much as it sucks having to let people go, especially if they've been around for a while, if all they're doing is tearing you down, ruining your mental health, if they're the kind of people to make excuses for every little thing as to why they're doing something or why they're not doing something, like I just think that you should cut them out. And that's why I really love the streamer and, creator advice content that I'm doing, is because like I just like keeping things real with people. I like there are so many people who, don't have somebody to go to for help, and they're genuinely wondering like, how do I build my community better, or what are some tools that I could use that I'm not currently using. And a lot of people will just like, I call it like toxic positivity or like sugarcoating things. And they're like, you know what, keep up what you're doing. I know that you've been doing this for 5 years, but maybe one day exactly what you're doing will work. And it's like there's something obviously happening that isn't working. And, I like to help people figure out what it is so they actually, can grow and actually can get help, instead of just, do exactly what you're doing. Because if you're doing something for 5 years and it's not working and you've seen no progress, there's no point in just saying, keep it up, So I think that I just want to be the person that I didn't have when I first started streaming, and to actually like help people and give advice, but also, just always telling people, just surround yourself with people that are actually good for you and not people that are just going to hold you back.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a theme here, and
Yeah.
it's sometimes hard to what I find for myself in life is just checking in with myself to make sure I'm doing what I say that we should be doing, right? And so sometimes it is hard when you've had people in your life for a long time. And that term toxic positivity, I learned recently as well too. And it's hard. There's another beautiful quote that I heard recently, and I don't have it on off the top of my head, but it's basically about the sentiment around people can there's room in life for people to provide something for you at a specific point in time. And if that specific point in time then ends, that's okay. And I think what's key is, and what's difficult is, especially in this world where we're all virtually connected, and, especially people like the three of you as content creators are very public facing, it's difficult to identify like when has that moment passed, and try to get it before it becomes toxic. But those were all such great nuggets of advice and experience. So thank you so much for that. So shifting a little bit more to kind of some of the business side of content creation, three of you have three really powerful stories about how you got from where you were to where you are. And I'd love to hear some experiences or advice or thoughts on brands working with creators, and what could brands do better, or what don't they know? And if neither of those sound like exactly what you want to answer, just an experience share about working with a brand, whether was a great experience or something that left a little bit to be desired. So let's talk about brands a bit. And anyone of you can jump in.
I guess I'll start. So whenever it comes to working with brands, what I wish brands knew is that we are people. We're not just numbers, we're not just creators. And just because you work with someone and you think they're going to be a great representative or whatever it is because they're big numbers, I feel like they forget that small creators, it's quality over quantity. And they expect that just because certain numbers aren't in a certain place that they want, they're looking for, they think if you have smaller numbers, even though the quality is higher and like the what's influencership or influence on those viewers are higher and they trust you a lot more, usually more than a big creator, they think that they don't have to treat you like a person. And they think that they can just walk all over you, think that you'll just accept everything for free or like slap their name on your stream in an overlay just to say, just be like, oh, but I'm working with this brand. Isn't this cool? But in reality, like that's a big percentage and you're representing them. And for a lot of us, this is our job.
Right.
And if we say no, that doesn't mean we don't like your brand. It just means that, like, hey, that's taking up our screen. And if you're not compensating correctly, and we fight for like what we know and what is the industry average, just because you're a big name doesn't mean I'm gonna make myself cheaper for you to match what you want to pay me. And a lot of brands are moving towards that where it's like they're treating creators cheaply as if they're just another face, another person. Oh, they don't want to work with us? Okay, well, we used to work with them and pay them this, but this other creator decided to accept the cheapness that we're treating people. So we're just going to shun this creator, but we're going to keep using and like not like for lack of better words, abusing other creators that will accept it for nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big topic in the industry right now that people are afraid to talk about because they're afraid people won't work with them. But I just keep seeing so many creators being treated like they're not worth anything, that are worth so much, and letting brands treat them a certain way or act a certain way. And I hate to see it. I hate it so much. And I think it's messing up the industry the way a lot of the big name brands that everyone knows and loves are treating people. And it stinks to
Yeah,
see.
it does stink. I mean, I'd love to hear any additional thoughts that any of you have on how it could be changed or can it be changed? Because what I'm interested, so my first profession before I became an entrepreneur, and I was an entrepreneur in a parenting community first and now with the gamehers. But my first profession was in advertising, but it was me. I worked in media buying for brands, but because of my age, at that time it was mostly just like brands bought TV commercials, and so that was it. And then in the course of my adulthood, the image, the way that we consume advertising has changed to just be so complex, right? And so to me, it seems so obvious. It's like we went from this situation literally 20 years ago where there was one choice. I mean, there were magazines and radio, but like it was basically like TV seconds. The decision was, or TV ads, the decision was, is it a 30-second or a 60-second ad, right? And now there are so many choices. To me, it seems even if it takes a little bit longer, because you do have to be able to tie it back to ROI. I mean, I understand what they're looking for and who they have to answer for, and they ultimately need sales, but actually, I don't, what they ultimately need is committed consumers over like the course of a lifetime and then a generation. Like it seems so obvious to me, but because it's clearly not obvious, given the experience that you just shared, Billy. What I'm curious is like, can it change? And if so, how? And certainly Ty and Artemis weigh in with any experiences on brands. It'd be great to also hear some positive experiences, but I'd love to hear from you all, like what you think it looks like moving forward, and can we change?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. As far as I don't see from, a capitalistic standpoint that companies are really going to change their mind when it comes to like kind of lowballing compensation. I think that, they're trying to make that ROI make sense. What I think they're not taking into account, and something that we as creators, I think, can advocate for and change from our end, is, you know, these micro influencers is like, I think I hate thinking of myself as an influencer in any way, but the loyalty that a small creator has with their community is so much more profound, I think, in my experience, than, you know, a really large brand. Because, you know, if you look at a streamer who has 100,000 viewers each stream, that tight knitness, for lack of a better term, is not the same as somebody who has 10, 30, 100 viewers. There's a lot more FaceTime, a lot more trust. From a creator standpoint entirely, I think it's so important. And I view this through the lens of my physician hat, but it's so important to only endorse brands use and that you truly believe in, especially when you're a smaller creator. I think that people can see inauthenticity very easily, especially in these smaller spaces. So for instance, I get reached out to all the time by supplement companies and companies that are trying to get, you know, oh, doctor promotes this. And the first thing I ask them is, do you have randomized, double-blinded clinical research trials showing the efficacy of the product you want me to promote? Because ethically, I'm not going to tie my name and my degree towards something that, number one, isn't soundly scientifically backed, or could actually do real harm. That's the other thing. People assume that supplements in particular are just completely innocuous, and a lot of times they're not. So that's another thing from creators. The other thing, I think, is knowing your value as a creator. Coming up, Beacons is a really cool site where you can actually plug in your follower count, your engagement rate, your audience demographics, and it'll spit out a rate as far as like, this is what you should charge for an Instagram post or a TikTok post, and have that in a rate card ready to send to brands. Because I'm sure that Artemis and Billy and a lot of other creators get these emails too, but I get emails all the time that are like, we have a gifting campaign and a nice affiliate discount. And it's like, I'm not going to, you know, kind of grift my audience into buying all of these different things that, number one, I don't use, and number two, like, I'm not being fairly compensated for it. Like, I got onto some list on TikTok, and it's like $20 for a TikTok post. I'm like, that's not worth my time and energy. And so knowing what you're worth, being able to advocate for what you're worth, having a really solid brand kit and a rate card to be able to forward to these companies, because a lot of them will come in and say, oh, we just offer a commission or whatever. And you can say, no, this is what I charge per post. And be okay with them saying no. But knowing your value, I think, is so important. I have a couple of like brands that I'm working with that I use exclusively. Elgato is one of them that I absolutely love. All of my gear is Elgato gear. And so I have a partnership manager that I work with, and they're so communicative, so awesome. And like, these are products that I genuinely believe in. And so my community knows that, and they know that I'm not going to just peddle whatever, just to like get into their pockets. And that if I'm not using a product, I'm not going to promote it. And having brands that you collaborate with know that, I think that elevates you just a little bit, where they're like, okay, we need to make a good product because she's not going to just peddle whatever. So that's kind of a tidbit that I have for brands.
Yeah, that's great advice. And for some reason, I don't know if it was on my end, but the sound cut out right when you said the site that you can go in and put your numbers in. So will you repeat that just for anyone who's watching? Yeah,
Beacons. It's BEACONS.
Great. And a lot of people know that already, but just to make sure that it didn't get lost on our stream. That's great advice. Thank you so much. Great. Well, there's so much the brand conversation we could go on forever about. And I think it's a great thing to at least talk about a little bit, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of reasons why you all are doing this with your time and your energy. But one of the reasons is generally to make some sort of an income, whether it's for the three of you, whether it's your full-time gig or part-time. And so I believe so strongly as well in knowing your value and sticking by it. And it's easier to, in my experience and in talking to a lot of creators, and this is actually great advice for anybody in the who's in the working world trying to figure out, you know, what you're worth and being as confident as possible around that. One thing I've done a lot is figured out, like, what are the people above me doing? How can I learn from them? What are they, you know, if you go to a number of meetings and someone asks for example, a media kit and you don't have one, well, maybe you need a media kit, and then figure out who you can, you know, who can help you put one together, and that those sorts of things. So that kind of advice is really, really spot on, I think.
Yeah, portfolios too. Like for creators, if you have companies that you've worked with before, don't just let them say no, or if they ask for something specific. Even if you like you make fake UGCs, I made like a mock UGC portfolio already, just with brands that I like, and like just like tape over like the names and stuff. Now I have a lot more that are like real and that I've done that I can show brands. But even if you mock make UGC content and be confident with like, this is good, this is really good, this is what I could do, I have 3 different ideas, but don't do it with their product, obviously, because they could like take it. But I always give them like a mock, being like, if you want this quality and you want to use it, even though it's not going to go on my profile, this is what you could have for this price. Does this work? Before them be like, no, you're not worth it. Okay, well, you haven't even seen what I can make yet. Like they'll just say no. So like having a website and a portfolio, like I have like a portfolio website that I'll send to people with like examples. That way they know exactly what they're going into, and you have more leverage like when negotiating occurs. And I think a lot of people I found out don't have that. So like definitely make one, because it goes way farther the second that they see what you've done for another company, and they can be like, oh well, I like that, I want that. Or like, okay, well, I liked this, but I want to change this. That's simple because it's not even what you made for them already. You just already have it lined up, which is like, that's helped me so much for a lot of the UGC stuff that I've done.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's like, to your point, Ty, you don't want to necessarily, but of course you want to know your worth and not work with brands you don't believe in and all of that. But when you're first getting started, I think, and again, this translates to other kind of careers as well. A portfolio or kind of case studies of what you can do. You can mock them up, and here's what we can do. We may or may not have done it before, but we could do it. And that's another sort of example of knowing your worth, because once you start doing something, and I've seen this happen over and over, you know, then it's, once you make the first sale, it's easier to make the second sale. When, you know, once somebody sees you have partnered with a brand, other brands may have, you know, some fear of missing out and that sort of thing. So great additional advice. So one thing I loved when we were chatting before we started the stream was about, you all know each other in various capacities. What has been your experience with, and you alluded to this a little bit, each of you, but your experience with community, not your community, but the community of the industry, and have you found support in that? Was it hard to make? How did you start making it? Any maybe advice for creators who are earlier in their creating journey than you, on how would you find that community?
It can be a scary thing. So there are people in this industry, you have to walk a little bit tentatively yet confidently. There are, and just like trusting your gut. I think this is something that, I'm a big fan of therapy. I think everybody should be in therapy, but something that I learned through therapy was to trust my gut. And so if somebody is giving me odd vibes, that it's okay for me to listen to that. I don't have to treat them any differently. I don't have to act any differently. But knowing when a space is making you uncomfortable, and kind of using that as guardrails and guide rails. I'm gonna subtly, not so subtly, plug Ghost Girls as an organization that I'm a part in, led by Sasky, who is just such a girl's girl, and you can feel the girl energy just emanate off of people who are authentically girls. And that organization through Ghost has introduced me to so many amazing women, Artemis being one of them. And it allows this kind of like baseline framework for looping other people into that as well. That is a great organization that I'm a part of that advocates for women. The other one, the Twitch Women's Guild, has been really great, just networking with people on Discord. You do have to put yourself out there, and as the introverts that we are, I think that can be a really difficult thing. But putting yourself out there with the confidence, again, in knowing that if somebody doesn't like you or rejects you, that's not necessarily like your failure. It doesn't mean that you're unlikable and that you should always be rejected. It just means that maybe you don't fit what they need or what they want in a friend, a community member, whatever. And so I think that, being able to just walk through these spaces very grounded and kind of collect the things and the people and the community that you want, and just kind of very, very calmly walk through all of the other stuff that maybe doesn't serve you. I think that there's a lot of power in knowing the spaces that you're accepted in and belong, and maybe the other spaces that they're not bad, but they're just not meant for you.
Great advice. Anything to add? We're getting just to the end of the stream, and I want to make sure we have time to wrap it up. But Artemis or Billy, if you have anything else to add on community, jump in for a minute, and then we can kind of wrap it up. I want to make sure everyone knows how to find all of you.
I think whenever it comes to like building your community, I think just like Ty said, like push people away that you don't think are good for you, and then also keep an eye out on like who is just not fitting into the community. In one, I love like reaching out to my mods at times and being like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on. Can you just see if like they're okay before I just like ban people, especially if they're in the community for a while and like something's shifting. Like they went from being a light of energy to they've just been a Debbie Downer every single stream, and like maybe even like emotionally dumping, and like just make it to where I have it to where my mods, like if I need them to reach out, I don't want to be the bad guy at times. And also like it takes a lot and you don't want them to be upset, right? So like I always have like my mods being like the core of my community. That way they can figure out what's wrong with like guidance, and of course like we all work together to figure out if there's a deeper rooted problem. I trust them to solve it. And I think when it comes like building your community as a beginning streamer, don't just mod willy-nilly. Truly trust in your mods, because like your mods represent you. And so the way that they act is also going to attract the type of community that you want. If they're super trolly, you're probably going to have a super trolly community. If you have a mod that's super kind and loving, it's going to attract people. And also like just when you're talking to your community, know how to respond and practice situations. Like when I was a baby streamer, I would, before I even had like views, like, or like anyone watching my stream, I would practice just talking. And like that alone is going to bring the community that you want. If you're constantly being mean to yourself while you're playing a game, you're going to draw a community that's probably going to be mean to you too. But if you're being like hee hee ha ha about things and like laughing it on, you're going to attract people what you're putting out. And I see so many people not doing that, like truly speak out in your stream what you're trying to attract for your community, and it'll just grow from there, and it'll attract like more little gremlins that like all fit together and they all hang out and like they become friends. Like you have to truly put out what you would like your community to be, because it works. It definitely works.
I think we started with manifestation and we're ending with manifestation. I love the theme of moderation. It is something we talk about at the Gamehers as being super important constantly. It's all about moderation, and your mods do represent who you are. So thank you for reminding us about that. So very quickly, in the last 2 minutes, one sentence from each of you on what you have coming up, or where you see gaming going, or where your stream is going in the next 12 months.
Next 12 months. Oh no. I don't know. I honestly just love slowly adding in new things that just interest me and things that I know I'll be able to keep up for like a super long term. So hopefully I'll just keep growing on YouTube because that's something that like I'm super passionate about right now. And really quickly to backtrack what Billy was saying, I would say protect your peace. One thing that I really, really struggled with was putting other people's feelings above mine. If your mod group or if your, go-to people, if there are things changing, a dynamic changing, and you're not comfortable with it, sometimes you have to learn that protecting you and your community is more important than protecting somebody else's feelings that might be damaging you and your community. So it's also okay to, you don't have to like necessarily burn bridges, but it's okay to also let those people go as well. But
Even if they're one of your moderators.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
what I think that's actually a great point to bring up. Thank you for adding that in. All right, Billy, what do you have coming up?
I have a lot coming up. So I have my whole streaming journey. I've only because I kind of like fell head first into streaming. So I've just put streaming as my focus for everything. And I'm moving now back onto working on my YouTube, working on my TikTok, connecting multi-streaming into it finally after people tell me to do it for forever. And so I have a ton of YouTube videos. I have 3 different YouTube series that are edited, almost fully edited. And then there's just a lot of gaming content, a lot of theory content. I'm a big Souls gamer, but also drawing in content. If my community suggests a game that they love, it's going on the YouTube. Like I'm trying to draw in with outside of my stream, incorporating things that I'm passionate about, but also incorporating my community that got me to where I am into my content. So a lot of TikTok content, a lot of YouTube content that I haven't even really touched my toes into yet. So this next year's gonna be super busy, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited for it.
Sounds exciting. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it all unfold. And what about you, Ty?
Yeah, Q4 is a really busy time in the Tiny Arms Club. That's what we call our community. And we have a huge event coming up. We do this massive celebration for October and spooky season. I'm like trying to channel my inner spooky season. Like I just am manifesting the cool weather and I want summer to be over so badly. And so we have a huge event. That we do in October to celebrate that start of cooler weather and just like the fall vibes. The other thing that I've been doing, I revamped my entire YouTube. I think that a lot of us are kind of focusing on YouTube. YouTube kind of has that longevity factor that I think a lot of streamers are looking for, because I think in the back of all of our minds, we realize that maybe this isn't forever. And YouTube is a little bit more permanent, I think, than Twitch streaming is. And so I revamped my content over there. I've been working on a lot of RPGs, first time playthroughs, reactions to big parts in games and playing these nostalgic games that I never got around to because I was in med school and the like. And reacting to really big moments that everybody else is really excited about because they've already played it and these are games that they love and I'm getting to experience that for the first time. So that's a really fun thing that I've got coming up.
That's really fun. Well, thank you 3 so much. This has been a pleasure. For anybody who wasn't here when we did the initial intros, I've had a great conversation today with Ty Rex, Billy Goat, Artemis Frost, winners of the Content Creator Gamer Awards. Thanks for spending time with us. We look forward to at the Gamehers to following all of your journeys, working together more, celebrating you. And join us next week at PinkPixels. We're going to be getting together with winners of the cosplay stars, and can't wait to highlight those those winners. And we just thanks to everybody for all of your support of the Gamehers. We couldn't do it without our community, which is all of you. So this is just one conversation. We have a lot more going on at tgh.app. Would love you all to join us there. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye.